My dude, the final episode of Solo Leveling is finally here. The kind of episode we watch in slow-mo just to make it last longer. The whole world's holding its breath. Will our boy Jinwoo manage to save Cha while stopping the 4,000 demon roaches that escape? That's what we're about to find out, so buckle up because the end of this episode is straight up absolute cinema. After dealing with those giant bears, Jinwoo wasted no time recruiting new shadow soldiers for his growing army. Meanwhile, outside the Red Gate, Dong-soo was pacing like a nervous dad, asking how long they'd been inside. The crew tells him it's been 3 hours out, about 3 days in there. Dong-soo immediately assumes Jinwoo's already become bear chap. He starts complaining about wasting his time and getting ready to leave, but then remembers Jinwoo isn't even part of the White Tiger. So naturally, he starts asking what the heck Jinwoo was doing there in the first place. The manager explains that Jinwoo is a friend and was just curious about the C-rank gate. He didn't think it'd be a problem to let him tag along. But of course, musclehead Dong-soo wasn't buying it. He grabs the manager and starts choking him, demanding to know what kind of prodigy he found this time. That's when the guild master steps in, grabbing Dong-soo's arm and telling him to knock it off. Dong-soo, being the drama king he is, throws shade, calling the guild master a small fish compared to himself. Baek wasn't having any of that and started flexing some terrifying energy, forcing Dong-soo to eat his word. The tension explodes. Meanwhile, poor Kim Chul is out in the snow, freezing and clearly traumatized. He stumbles across the corpses of the ice bear and assumes it must have been the ice elves because there's no way those weaklings from the rank E could have pulled that off. Back at the showdown, Jinchul steps in before anyone ends up in the hospital. He thanks the two hotheads for holding back because, let's be real, otherwise he'd be the one getting sent to the ER. Jinchul mentions testing Jinwoo's abilities 2 months ago and confirms he's just an E rank. He also insists that magical beasts killed Dong-soo's brother, but Dong-soo isn't buying, calling it a bedtime store fool. He admits he's just looking for an excuse to kill Jinwoo. Meanwhile, Kim Chul finally stumbles across the rank E group. He's shocked to see them living it up, food and gear, while he's out here losing his whole team to poor resource. He starts flipping out, accusing them of hiding all that stuff from him. In the middle of his meltdown, Kim Chul decides the high-ranking mage must have joined Jinwoo's group because they had better survival resources. Furious, he's ready to wipe them all out, but Jinwoo shows up and casually flicks him across the area like a rag. Jinwoo calmly explains that if anyone's to blame for the mess, it's the leader who decided to split the team. To make things worse, Kim Chul had unknowingly brought trouble straight to their doorstep. Ice elves deactivate their stealth, and the bloodlust in the air is impossible to ignore. When the elf leader starts speaking, Jinwoo surprises himself by suddenly understanding their monster language. Even he's like, wait, when did I learn this? The elf leader reveals one of his subordinates found Jinwoo interesting, wanted a fight. But before the guy could even throw hands, Jinwoo decapitated in an instant. The head landed 30 feet away before anyone knew what happened. Jinwoo then moves in on the elf leader, who explains that a voice constantly orders them to kill humans. Strangely enough, that same voice doesn't command them to attack Jinwoo, meaning he's not human. Jinwoo starts piecing things together, realizing that becoming a player might have changed his status as a human. The elf leader tries to strike a deal, saying he'll spare Jinwoo's life if he hands over the human. Jinwoo obviously says nope. The leader, full of confidence, reminds Jinwoo that they're outnumbered, but Jinwoo shuts him up by summoning his shadow army, and suddenly, the odds look a lot less favorable for the elf. Chaos erupts as everyone goes into battle mode. While the elves try sniping at the escaping human, Jinwoo pulls an action movie move, catching arrows mid-air and obliterating the attackers. Jinwoo soon realizes that the elf leader, Baruka, way tougher than expected. Baruka pulls a disappearing dagger trick and nearly lands a fatal blow, but Jinwoo dodges just in time. The elf lands a powerful kick to Jinwoo's gut, but instead of flinching, Jinwoo just grins like a maniac. Out of nowhere, Jinwoo's shadow mages launch a massive fireball straight at Baruka. Meanwhile, Kim Chul finally picks himself up after that humiliating flick and charges at Jinwoo right as Baruka does the same. Of course, Jinwoo saw it coming a mile away and summoned Igor, who wasted no time planting a sword right into the rank A's gut. Even though the dude was a total jerk, he was still pretty strong, so Jinwoo decided to recruit his shadow for the squad. He named him Iron, who wasted no time making himself a nuisance to Baruka. Meanwhile, the rest of the human group was huddled behind a tree, enjoying the show like it was premium cable. Park Hee-jin couldn't help but mutter that if raids were always this chaotic, she would have picked literally any other career. Baruka, the sneaky elf, laughed and said, "One sword's not enough to handle me, huh? Let's bring 2 more into the mix." Clearly, the guy had skill, juggling 3 attackers like he was auditioning for a medieval circuit. But Iron's taunting ability kept pulling Baruka's focus, leaving him open for a sneaky slash from Jinwoo. Realizing his entire elf army had been wiped out by these shadowy nuisances didn't help his mood either. Furious, he lunged at Jinwoo, laughing at how the kid had thrown away his weapon. Cue Jinwoo activating his Thor-like skill, summoning his dagger straight into Baruka's back like it had GPS. Baruka tried to block, but his Jinwoo's weapon got obliterated. The shadows swarmed him, hitting from all angles, but somehow the guy tanked it all. That's when Jinwoo turned invisible, slipped behind him, and stuck his dagger where it hurts, announcing, "It's over." Baruka sneered, "Don't get cocky." But before he could finish, Iron was already slamming his hammer right into his face. With that final blow, they took down the boss, netting Jinwoo a mountain of XP. But Iron, hyped beyond reason, kept smashing Baruka's lifeless body until Jinwoo had to tell him to chill. The Shadow Army erupted into victory cheers, while Jinwoo made his way to the group, announcing that it was all clear. The portal opened, and the surviving hunters returned, breathing sighs of relief. Outside, Baek was holding on to the hope that Kim Chul had miraculously saved the day. His bubble popped when he saw only the low-rank hunters walk out alive. Baek grabbed Jinwoo, demanding to know what had happened. Jinwoo, clearly over it, told him to ask his guild members instead. Baek pressed on, saying 6 members had gone MIA, and he needed answered. Jinwoo, now fully done, replied, "I saved 2 of your guys. The least you can do is say thank you." Baek, realizing he'd poked the wrong bear, stammered an apology. Still, his curiosity got the best of him, so he asked Park what was going on. She shrugged, saying she had no clue, except that Jinwoo had been in a foul mood ever since defeating the boss. That's when Baek realized Jinwoo wasn't your average hunter, and told his manager to recruit him for the guild no matter what. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was frustrated because he couldn't extract Baruka's shadow. He tried 3 times, but the system basically told him, "Not today, bud." The next day, Jinwoo met up with Jin-Ho, who showed up dressed like a human disco ball. Before they got back to business, Jinwoo decided to stop by Yi-Han's house. The moment she hopped in the car, she greeted Jinwoo all sweet, leaving Jin-Ho absolutely stunned. And when she casually mentioned she couldn't sleep last night, Jin-Ho immediately got the wrong idea and stammered out, "You know she's underage, right?" Inside the raid, the little heir was shocked by the captain's new ability. He said he didn't remember the guy having a freaking army working for him last time, and it made everyone's job a whole lot easier. But Jin-Ho begged the boss to at least let him mine the crystals so he wouldn't feel completely useless. He got all emotional when a knight came over to bring him the minerals. Then we cut to a pitch-black room with some guy shaking like a leaf, terrified of a huge, long-haired dude telling him to stop screaming. The big guy said to calm down because his friends were just taking a nap. But the poor guys were American, and the big dude's English was terrible. So he pulled out a translator and explained he was just a human trying to go home. Meanwhile, the 2 guys headed to a steakhouse to celebrate since they'd finally finished all 19 raids in the contract. Now the little heir just needed to pass his test to become a certified guildmaster. After that, Jinwoo mentioned he might go off the grid to avoid certain people. But Jin-Ho, already tipsy from hand sanitizer level alcohol, said if he's annoying, Jinwoo should just say it, and he'll stop. Then, all drunk, he said he considers Jinwoo more family than his actual brother. The 2 shared a drink to seal their brotherly bond. The rich kid got emotional and ordered 300 more steaks for Jinwoo to eat. Meanwhile, that giant monster of a man was locked up and being questioned. He said he was a foreign hunter who got stuck in a gate for 10 years and couldn't escape. And since his English was awful, they were waiting for a translator. The guys were starting to think he might actually be a magical monster disguised as human. So they called in an S-rank hunter to do the interrogation. Of course, they meant Huang Dong-Soo, who was already on a flight back to the United States. All they'd figured out so far was the hunter's name, Il-Hwan Sung. At home, Sung Jinwoo told his sister he'd be gone for weeks. She teased him, saying he'd been going out a lot lately and asking if he'd found himself a girlfriend. Little did she know the closest thing to that was him getting cozy with her best friend. Finally, our boy returned to the demonic castle. Last time he fought Cerberus, he was level 20, but now he was 3 times stronger. Thought it'd be easier this time. He inserted the key and entered the castle. Right away, he got a mission to collect demon soul, and it wouldn't end until he gathered 10,000 soul. But that didn't matter. Even if it were 100,000, he wasn't leaving until he got the items for the life elixir. Meanwhile, at Jin-Ho's mansion, he was trying to convince his dad to let him take over as guildmaster, even though it was supposed to go his brother. The old man started talking about the 3 crazy incidents Jinwoo survived, not to mention the Red Gate raid Jin-Ho didn't even know about. He said Jin-Ho only passed the guild master test because of Jinwoo, and asked if he still thought he deserved to lead the guild. Jin-Ho had excuses ready, but he didn't need them because his dad agreed, with a condition. Since the White Tiger Guild was eager to recruit Jinwoo after the Red Gate, his dad asked if Jin-Ho could bring him in first. Jin-Ho swore he'd make it happen. Back in the demonic castle, Jinwoo had already taken out a bunch of demons, but discovered he couldn't extract their shadows because they were corrupted. After completing the first mission, he earned a pass to the second floor. Tired of walking, he summoned the Ice Bear leader as his mount. But before Jinwoo could give any orders, the Coca-Cola bear charged into the demons, trampling everyone. Jinwoo named him Tank. Over at the White Tiger Guild, they had a pretty fancy area. Cha recalled asking Bayek why they were keeping the flying ant information secret. Baek explained it was an order from the association to avoid scaring the public. In the castle, Jinwoo worried it might be an S-rank dungeon, but the demons seemed more like B-rank best. He noted that the demons increased in number and strength with each floor, which helped him level up faster. He started imagining how strong he'd become by the final floor, and knew he had to collect those 10,000 souls before running out of food. Then he ran into an army of Orc King Knights who could have used a diet plan. He summoned his army to face the first boss, Vulcan the Greedy, who was waiting on the 50th floor. Manager An and Park Hee-jin went to Jinwoo's house to offer him a job, but Jinwoo wasn't interested in a 9-to-5 and had already left town. The manager looked up Jinwoo's record and saw he'd vanished downtown. No one knew where he went. By that time, Jinwoo was explaining strategies to his soldier. He told them to handle the minions while he focused on the boss. The mages started strong with explosions, Igris cleaned up the weaklings, and Jinwoo, now with higher intelligence, summoned even more shadow soldiers. He wondered how long that pastel lord would just sit there. As if on cue, the boss teleported and slammed his staff into the battlefield. Jinwoo punched him hard, sending the big guy flying across the castle. Even Jinwoo was surprised by his strength, but the boss got back up and activated buffs just like Cerberus did. Jinwoo borrowed Iron's shield to block the boss's heavy strikes. When he found an opening, he threw the shield and tried to attack from behind. But the boss predicted his move, forcing Jinwoo to use Dominator's touch to dodge. He realized the boss's glowing eyes were the weak spot. The guy moved like a super athlete, defying physics, so Jinwoo climbed a building to lure him up. Leaping into the smoke, he delivered a precise slash to the boss's carotid artery. It's clear our boy has a thing for chopping heads. Another one for his collection. At the interrogation, Dong-soo walked in, calling the emo guy a monster. Il-hwan said he wasn't and offered to take a DNA test if needed. Dong-soo, annoyed at being pulled from his fun, asked Il-hwan what he knew about gates and magical beasts. Il-hwan said their knowledge was just the tip of the iceberg and warned that a catastrophic power had awakened. He said his mission was to stop it, but Dong-soo wasn't buying it and joked that Il-hwan must have been drinking motor oil to spout such nonsense. Il-hwan warned that their hunter army wouldn't be enough and that not even their flashy S-rank hunters could stop what was coming. But now, things are about to get spicy, my friend. Dong-soo finds out that the monster has a wife and 2 kids, and when he mentions the name of the son, Sung Jinwoo, he gives a death glare that could freeze hell over. The bald bastard grins and says his son is already a thing of the past. He adds that if Il-hwan wants to say anything, he'll have to wait until they meet in hell. That was it. The dad was done playing around. Back in the demonic castle, Jinwoo and his squad were wrecking the place. He asked if that horned boss was impressed by the strength of his soldiers. And once again, Jinwoo chopped off the boss's lovely head, leveling up after defeating the soul guy. Outside, it was total chaos. The fire department had been called, and the scene looked like the aftermath of a disaster movie. No one expected a rank S hunter battle to end like this, with the almighty Hwang Dong-soo utterly humiliated in the blink of an eye. Mess with someone else's kid, huh, genius? Jinwoo, out of food, decided it was time to call it a day. In just 1 week, the kid had climbed to the 75th floor of an S-rank dungeon, and he scored some sick loot like the giant's earrings and the skeleton's necklace, which boosted all his stats and came with insane buffs. He also got a greed orb, which wasn't much use to him but would double the firepower of his magical soldier. Then there was a cursed loot box containing another key. But of course, this cursed key came with zero explanation about where to use it. What mattered most was that he'd obtained a world tree fragment and spring water from the Echo Forest. Now he was just 1 item away from completing the life elixir to save his mom from that illness. Jinwoo promised that next time he'd finish this dungeon for good. Our boy Jinwoo realized he only needed 1 more item to complete the elixir of life. But to get it, he'd need to get way stronger before heading back to that demonic castle. The problem? He was still classified as a rank E and couldn't join the high-level raids. So he decided it was time to stop pretending to be weak and went to get his rank reassessed. At the assessment building, a scout from the White Tiger Guild was watching, hoping to find some talent to recruit. But all he saw were weaklings, until Jinwoo walked in. That's when he froze and called the guild master immediately. Even Bayek was surprised when he heard Jinwoo came to reassess his rank. While waiting in line, some nervous newbie was sweating bullets, terrified of getting a low rank and not being able to pay his bills. Another guy tried to calm him down, saying, "Relax, bro. If you at least hit rank D, those smaller guild scouts will be all over you." Finally, it was Jinwoo's turn. Inside, he handed over his info: social security, mom's credit card, Bitcoin wallet password, the whole deal. The lady at the desk joked, "Another frustrated rank E who can't accept he's a loser, huh?" She told him to place his hand on the black crystal, but when he did, the machine threw an error. She thought it was just a glitch and tried again, but it failed a second time. Starting to freak out, she called her boss, who came in to run the assessment himself. And guess what? Error again. That's when the guy started trembling, because he realized it wasn't the machine. It was Jin Woo. His bow hour level was off the charts. The boss whispered, "This kid's one of the top 10 in the country. He's a rank S." Meanwhile, in a nearby park, Woo Jin-chul was chatting with a red-haired nerd about the mysterious hunter who helped at Red Gate. Jin-chul swore it wasn't Hwang Dan-su, even though some people thought it was. Choi, curious as ever, asked, "If it wasn't him, who was it?" But Redhead admitted he didn't stay till the end, so he couldn't say for sure. He did suspect Jinwoo though, but decided to keep quiet until he had solid proof. Just then, they noticed a commotion at the assessment building. Sounded like some hunter was throwing a tantrum about their rank. Jin-chul decided to check it out, and Choi tagged along, saying he was curious too. Back at the building, the boss had to postpone Jinwoo's assessment because their detector couldn't handle his power. Everyone there was losing it because a delay like that basically screamed rank S. No one had ever seen someone break the detector before. Scouts from smaller guilds were already salivating over the chance to recruit him, but their excitement was cut short when someone unexpected arrived. It was the leader of the Hunters Guild, the biggest guild in South Korea. People were stunned, whispering, "Why is the Supreme Soldier himself here?" Jin-woo immediately recognized him as Choi Jong-in, a guy whose fire magic was so insane he could burn down the entire building in seconds. With a piercing gaze, Choi said there was no need for any fancy detectors or a 3-day wait. "Without a doubt," he declared, "this kid is a rank S." So, the guy waltzed in all polite, introduced himself as the leader of the biggest guild in the country, and personally invited Jinwoo to join his squad. But Jinwoo, he straight up walked past him, saying he was busy. Everyone, including Four Eyes, was left standing there with their jaws on the floor. I mean, who in their right mind would snub one of the top-tier guys in the country like that? Choi Jong-in asked his slick-haired assistant if he somehow forgot to introduce him properly. But by the time they looked again, Jinwoo had vanished into thin air without making a sound. Choi smirked and said he'd make a damn good assassin. Things got even crazier when Guildmaster Baek stormed completely out of breath. Choi noticed how far the White Tiger Guild headquarters was and joked, "Did you morph into a tiger to get here that fast?" Still, Baek arrived late to the party. Choi assumed Baek already knew everything from the start, and this confirmed his suspicion that Jinwoo was the mystery guy who saved White Tiger Guild during the Red Gate incident. Baek was equally shocked to see Choi there and grumbled, "Out of everyone to compete for the kid, it had to be that fiery-haired bastard." Meanwhile, in the background, some chubby dude was celebrating his rank C achievement. Later that night, Jinwoo visited his mom in the hospital, silently hoping for a miracle to wake her from her coma. He promised her, "Just hang on a little longer. I'll find a way to save you." Out of nowhere, Jin-chul showed up and asked if Jinwoo was the one who defeated those monsters in the double dungeon that day. Jin-chul admitted that Jinwoo had taught him not to always trust his gut instincts. Jinwoo casually replied, "We meet again," and Jin-chul started rambling a bunch of stuff that Jinwoo barely listened to. But he perked up when Jin-chul mentioned the president of the Hunters Association was here to see him. And stepping out of the shadows came none other than Vice Admiral Garp. Well, his long-lost twin. And seriously, if this guy isn't Garp's twin, I'll eat my hat. The old dude introduced himself as Go Gun-hee and invited Jinwoo for a chat. He congratulated him on becoming a rank S hunter and said there was no need to wait for the reassessment because everyone already knew the result. The old man admitted that the Hunters Association didn't have the fame or fat paychecks of big guild. He explained that their top guy, Director Wu, was only a rank A hunter. Still, he told Jinwoo it would be incredible if he joined the association and promised him a prestigious position. Jinwoo was confused, so the old man broke it down. The 5 biggest guilds were constantly competing, and if Jinwoo joined one of them, it'd tip the balance of power. That's why he was inviting him to join the association, a neutral 6th power that kept the balance in check. Jinwoo thought it was a solid offer. It sounded like job security. Plus, he'd work under Korea's first ever rank S hunter, a total legend who didn't even look like he was pushing 80. But Jinwoo still turned him down. The president figured Jinwoo just wanted the big buck, but he was surprised when Jinwoo said he wanted to fight. "My place is in the dungeon," Jinwoo declared. His resolve so strong it left the old man moved. Jinwoo excused himself, saying his little sister was home alone waiting. The old man sighed, canceled all his plans, and told Director Wu, "Let's hit the bar." On his way out, Jinwoo muttered that he didn't accept the offer because the association mostly handled rank D and E gates. He needed to get stronger, fast, to save his mom. No time to waste. The next day, Dong-soo woke up in the hospital, completely wrecked. The deputy guildmaster asked asked him if Il-hwan Sung was really a magic beast disguised as a human. Dong-su scoffed, "Did that freak look human to you?" The deputy mentioned that HQ was tracking Il-hwan but doubted they could catch someone even America's strongest hunter couldn't handle. Dong-su vividly remembered the guy stepping on him and warning, "Stay away from my family or you'll wish for death 1,000 times over." Fueled by rage, Dong-su was already plotting his revenge. Meanwhile, Jinwoo was browsing for artifacts to boost his power, but quickly realized they were so expensive he'd have to sell both kidneys to afford half of one. He considered selling that orb of greed he picked up, but worried about explaining how a supposed rank E hunter had something that could only come from high-level gates. Then, he saw a job ad hiring for a mining team and thought, well, maybe this could work. Over at the association building, the president was digging into more info about the kid. He found out that just 4 months ago, Jinwoo looked like a total rookie. The guy was impressed that Jinwoo had survived for so long before awakening, considering he used to get clapped by even the weakest goblins. Jinchul mentioned that the kid's been paying for his mom's eternal sleep treatment and his sister's college tuition. One record showed Jinwoo even joined a raid team from the Hunters Guild. The old man assumed Jinwoo was just after the money, as expected, but he was surprised to see Jinwoo joined the mining team instead of the attack team, which is where the real cash is. And there he was, looking like a construction worker, ready to get his hands dirty. First, the attack team went in, led by Four Eye. The guy launched a fireball that fried an entire group of chupacabras in seconds. He was so overpowered that a squad of tanks had to block his own attack. After clearing everything except the boss, the attack team called it a day. Jinwoo could tell right away that this Choi guy was a beast. He made sure to suppress his presence so he wouldn't get noticed. Right behind Four Eyes was the vice master of the Hunters Guild, Cha Ha Hei-in, aka the ballerina. Jinwoo was amazed by her aura, but she wasn't far behind, noticing a strong presence she thought could only belong to President Go. Jinwoo had to max out his stealth mode to avoid being detected by her superhuman sense of smell. That's when the mining crew rolled in. They worked hard to gather all the crystals and monster carcasses, but Jinwoo, he only had eyes for the dungeon boss. The boss radiated power even greater than Vulcan or Metis from the Demon Castle. Jinwoo couldn't wait to go one-on-one with this rank A beast. Out of nowhere, he overheard the crew gossiping about how they brought a rank E to work. Meanwhile, some wannabe tough guy bumped into him trying to flex, but one icy glare from Jinwoo made the dude nearly wet himself. Everyone started questioning if this guy was really a rank E because he looked way too strong for that. When it was time for a break, the whole crew rushed off to eat. But not Jinwoo. He kept mining, saying he was almost done. Once he was finally alone, he bolted straight into the dungeon at full speed. He figured he had an hour-long break, which was plenty of time to sneak a peek at the boss. Jinwoo knew he couldn't kill the monster because that would close the portal and cost the Hunters Guild a fortune, but he just couldn't resist the temptation. He had already summoned his dagger when Cha caught him red-handed. She asked, "What the hell are you doing here?" And the boy was so surprised that he couldn't even respond. Then he went all off the chain and said he got lost and ended up here by accident. She told him to back off because this was the boss's room, and Jinwoo realized she was seriously strong for catching him off guard. But she already thought he was nuts because she was sure he had a weapon in his hand. When he passed by her to leave, the girl nearly had a heart attack. She made him wait and started sniffing him like a hound. She noticed he didn't smell like the usual eau de dumpster that other hunters reek of, and she was ready to pounce on him. But then she checked his badge. He was only rank E. She wondered if this kid was actually fragrant just because he's low rank. Total Narnia logic, right? Back with the mining crew, the guy said he was super lucky to get lost and bump into Miss Cha, the gal on patrol, who was supposedly checking on the boss. Meanwhile, Jinwoo had thought she was following him all along. One geeky dude chimed in that she can literally smell a certain stench on these hunters, and sure enough, most of them reek like onions. That's why she's always clutching a tissue to her nose, because she can't breathe near those stinky guys. Then Jinwoo started spacing out, wondering if this was some sort of system glitch, kind of like that time Baruka said he couldn't hear a voice ordering him to kill him. Later, Jinwoo went to get his mission payout, and everyone was drooling over him, because thanks to the boss, they wrapped up the job 2 hours early, like a human excavator. The boss was so impressed, he even asked if Jinwoo wanted to work for him, promising to take really good care of him. Jinwoo thanked him, but said he had other gigs lined up. Then the boss asked if he'd join tomorrow's raid. The kid was shocked that the hunters were pulling another rank A raid the next day. Only this time they're rolling with the backup team, and they're probably the only guild in Korea that can split their squad into 2 teams to close rank A portals. Jinwoo even asked what time he needed to show up tomorrow. The boss got all hyped and said he'd even double his salary, which is more than fair for someone working for $5, right? That night, the hunter Cha called the guild to ask about a guy named Sung Jinwoo who'd been in the mining crew. She said he must have gone off the rails. claiming he got lost earlier and she was worried he might be a spy from another guild. But we all know she was really just trying to stalk our hero, right? And she freaked out when the boss mentioned that Master Choi had ordered research on that same guy. But the association locked his files down so no one could access them, which is super for a rank this low. The kid even tried to ask a question, but the girl hung up on him and went to bed, wondering why Jin-woo was so different, since he was the first person she'd met who actually smelled good. And here's the secret, buddy. He uses Lightning McQueen's cologne. Over at the mining crew, Jin-woo suddenly remembered his first ever raid party. Meanwhile, everyone else was calling him to lunch because the guy was basically a hero at this point. Out of nowhere, a knight from the attack squad pulled up, asking if they could borrow someone from the mining team since their shield bearer didn't show up. Of course, the miners weren't about to risk their necks for nothing. Besides, they were already drowning in work. But the knight kept insisting, saying they'd even throw in a little extra pay. Too bad the Minecraft squad wasn't about to put their lives on the line for pocket change. Since nobody else wanted to go, our boy Jin-woo decided to volunteer. That's when the panic set in. Everyone started freaking out because an E-rank hunter tagging along with an A-rank raid team was straight up insanity. They were all like, "Bro, you're way too young to become Monster Chow." But Jin-woo figured he'd learn a lot just by watching. The squad leader introduced himself as Sun Ki-hoon and was absolutely baffled when he saw Jin-woo carrying a 300-kilogram backpack like it was a school bag. This portal was even bigger than yesterday, but the team told him to chill. If it were actually dangerous, they wouldn't have sent the backup squad. Yeah, just like that one time with the double dungeon where almost everyone got a one-way ticket to the afterlife. Even though this was just the reserve team, they were still stacked. 11 A-rank hunters and 6 B rank. Finally, it was time to go in. But for some reason, Jin-woo was getting that same weird gut feeling he had right before stepping into the red gate. Inside, a beautiful mage told him not to be scared since they'd protect him. Especially her, because she was an A-rank healer and could patch him up if he got hurt. She even started reciting some old saying. If the mage gets hit, it's the tank's fault. If the healer gets hit, it's the attack squad's fault. But if the shield bearer gets hit, everybody screwed up. Basically, Jin-woo would only get attacked if the whole squad got wiped out. Ki-hoon, meanwhile, was hyped because this was his first time leading Group B. If he could pull this off, he might get promoted to full-time leader. Out of nowhere, a noise echoed through the dungeon, and the whole team immediately snapped into formation. Jin-woo was impressed, nobody even needed to be told what to do. This was the power of an A-rank squad. Then, a pack of coyotes showed up, and the team wasted no time slicing them to pieces. Honestly, if they struggled with this, it would have been embarrassing. Jin-woo soloed 300 of these things back in episode 2, while still being a total weakling. The mage told everyone to duck because she was about to light the place up, and in a flash, the big bad wolves were gone. But the squad was confused. Why the hell were coyotes inside an A-rank dungeon? They were only C-rank monsters, way too weak to be here. That's when Jin-woo noticed something strange. These weren't just any wild mutts. They had collar marks on their necks, meaning someone had domesticated them. And that's when the real demons of this dungeon decided to crash the party. A whole squad of high orcs popped up, and the gang immediately started sweating bullets. One of them chucked a spear at light speed, nearly shattering the leader's shield. The orcs rushed in, and the Red Knight tried to block them, but they just used him as a stepping stone and went straight for the mages. One of them caught a fireball right in the face like it was nothing, but turns out their magic resistance was built different, so it barely left a scratch. The cat girl managed to hold one down with some magic whips, but the guy was a tank, and she could only keep him locked for 5 seconds max. The mage was like, "That's all I need," and summoned 2 massive fire soldiers to attack. Only problem? He used up all his mana, so now he was just a sitting duck. The martial artist chick tried to drop some Karate Kid moves, but the orc hit her with a full-body tackle that sent her flying straight into the wall. Things got even worse when they started getting surrounded, and Ki-hoon ordered them to split into 3 groups. Even though this was an A-rank dungeon, no one was expecting 20 freaking high orcs to spawn out of nowhere. That was not what the portal scanner showed, and it didn't take long for the first unlucky soul to lose an arm. The mage chick tried to trap the orc while the healer flexed her OP skills and straight up regrew the guy's arm like it was no big deal. But the orc snapped the bindings like they were paper and teleported behind her, about to send her straight to the respawn screen. Meanwhile, Mr. Backpack himself had mysteriously vanished, and out of nowhere, the orc started choking mid-air. Turns out Jin-woo was using stealth mode and went full ninja, slicing up the beast from the inside out. The healer had zero clue what just happened. Then another orc randomly lost his footing because a deep cut suddenly appeared on his ankle, right before Kai-hoon finished the job and split him in half. At that point, the whole squad was confused. Why was this fight suddenly so easy? That's when they realized Jinwoo was secretly weakening the orcs one by one without anyone noticing. A few of them even started sensing his presence, so he just yeeted them off the map before they could start swinging at the air like crazy people. The martial artist chick took the opportunity to body an orc with some premium-grade hands, while the leader carved through their boss like he was slicing butter. The dude hit the ground hard. As soon as the battle was over, everyone checked for injury, because as long as you were still breathing, the healers could patch you up like nothing happened. The healer reported to the leader that one of the high orcs randomly started choking out of nowhere. Ki-hoon thought it was the mage chick's doing, but she denied it. No way her skills could pull off something that wild. Then the mage suggested that if someone could do that, it'd have to be someone outside the squad. She was the only one who figured out that Jinwoo had been using stealth mode the whole time to secretly assassinate the monsters. But since she could tell he had a reason for keeping his real power under wraps, she decided to let it slide for now. After catching their breath, the squad started debating whether to retreat. After all, they barely survived fighting these high orcs, and who knows what else was lurking ahead. But Kai-hoon really wanted to finish the dungeon so he could get promoted to official squad leader. Jinwoo could tell the guy was dead set on completing the raid, but since he genuinely cared about his team's safety, he decided to pull back. The whole squad was sweating, thinking he was about to say, "Nah, let's keep going." Only one slight issue. When they tried heading back, a cursed barrier suddenly materialized, blocking their way out. They immediately turned to the mage chick like, "Yo, you got a spell for this?" She was like, "I can, but I'm gonna need time." The real issue: some ridiculously strong monster had to be the one who cast this spell. So, yeah, retreating was definitely the right move, because if they had pushed forward, they would have been wiped out for sure. But when she tried to break the barrier, she immediately started coughing up strawberry jam, and the other mages looked like they were about to pass out. When they looked back, there were 60 high orcs standing there, ready to breathe down their necks like some creeps in a dark alley. And if they almost got deleted by 20, imagine 3 times that. The squad leaders locked eyes, and the biggest orc stepped up, yelling straight into Ki-hoon's face with breath so bad it could melt steel beams. Dude was talking in monster gibberish, and obviously, no one understood a thing. But then, plot twist, the boss orc must have taken some Duolingo lessons because he suddenly switched to human language. Ki-hoon asked if he was the one who put up the magic barrier, and the guy straight up flexed, "Damn right I did. I'm none other than the great and powerful orc shaman." And then he added, "And your weak little human spells ain't got nothing on mine, so don't even bother." The shaman gave them 2 options: get obliterated now or follow him. And since they weren't complete idiots, they obviously went with option 2. Ki-hoon whispered to the squad that they'd pull a surprise attack on the boss as soon as they got close enough. Even if they couldn't take him down, it should be enough to break the barrier. Then he turned to Jinwoo and told him to run for his life the second the barrier dropped and get the real strike team over here. But Jinwoo, being Jinwoo, was like, "Yeah, and by the time they get here, you guys will already be turned into mashed potatoes." But Ki-hoon just hit him with that professional soldier mindset, saying their job was to close the portal, not to survive. That's why they get paid the big bucks. Then the healer pulled Jinwoo aside and asked him to deliver a message to her family if he made it out alive. She told him this wasn't his fight, so there was no reason for him to risk his life. But Jinwoo just took the letter and smiled. "I'll hold on to it, but I won't be needing to deliver it." Meanwhile, outside, Cha was pacing around, looking for Jinwoo, wondering if he was finally done playing Minecraft in the mining crew. The guild leader walked up to her and was like, "Hey, aren't you supposed to be off today?" She ignored him and asked if he'd seen a hunter named Sung Jinwoo around. And the second he mentioned that Jinwoo joined as a shield bearer, she froze. Inside the dungeon, the squad finally reached the boss room. And oh boy, it was straight up chaos. Hundreds of high orcs, plus a bunch of warrior-type monsters who looked like they just walked out of God of War. But the worst part? The boss himself, an absolute demon of a monster, standing there, staring them down like fresh meat, and greeting them with, "Welcome, humans. I've been expecting you." The Hunter Cha was already saying that an E-rank hunter volunteering for an A-rank dungeon was straight up insanity. Now she was sure he had a weapon in the boss room yesterday. She said she was going into the portal, and the chief asked if she wanted backup, but she told him to chill. It was personal business. Then she realized she forgot her sword and asked if anyone had a spare weapon. The chief handed her a rock pickaxe, and she was like, "You got anything better? Maybe a sword, a spear?" But yeah, asking a mining crew for combat weapons, not happening. So she gave the pickaxe back, saying she'd be fine. The chief hit her with the classic, "You sure you want to walk in there empty-handed?" And she regretted her life choices immediately. Meanwhile, in the boss room, the vibe was terrifying. The squad was already shaking, thinking that if all those superior orcs got out, the city would be wiped off the map in 5 minutes. That meant they had to take down the boss. But even the 4 guards around him looked scary enough to haunt your nightmare. The soldiers were just waiting for the signal to jump the shaman all at once. Then the Orc King took off his mask and asked if the humans were scared of him. Did he really need an answer? They were out here looking like they were about to have an accident on the spot. Ki-hoon somehow found his courage and asked why they even brought them here when the 60 orcs from before were already overkill. The Orc King, he just laughed, said it was for fun, and that they were going to smash their heads one by one for entertainment. Then, mid-monologue, he suddenly noticed someone odd among the humans. Ki-hoon, meanwhile, was losing his mind, screaming that they were just that bastard's plaything. So he gave the order to attack, but nobody moved. They were so scared, they might as well have been statues. The leader decided to charge in alone, but the boss summoned a magic ice spike and launched him across the room. Then he straight up called the guy an idiot, used gravity magic, and started playing catch with his head against the ground. And just when he was about to spike him into the abyss, someone stepped in to save him. It was Jinwoo, telling that this dungeon belonged to the Hunter Guild, and he shouldn't be messing around here. But since the whole squad was about to get wiped out, he asked if he could just delete all the monsters in the room. One of the orcs tried sneaking up behind him, but this time he was the one getting bounced around like a ping pong, Jinwoo asked, and Ki-hoon was basically begging him to save them all. The Orc King said he was pretty strong for a mere human, but he asked how long Jinwoo thought he'd last against all of them. Jinwoo said he'd never felt an energy this strong, and the boss was already feeling himself. But the kid hit him with the, "Oh yeah, this fight's gonna be brutal, just for you guys." Then he summoned his shadow army, stronger than ever. Outside the portal, Inspector Jinchul pulled up in his fancy limo, and the miners were completely lost. Slicked back hair dude wanted to know why the hell Jinwoo spent 2 days working there as a miner. He asked the chief where Jinwoo was, and at this point, that was the second time today someone had asked him that. That dude with the perma-scared face, the one who tried to intimidate Jinwoo before, said he knew something was off about that kid. Bro got scared so bad, he thought his soul was about to get evicted. Then the chief spilled the beans. Jinwoo had joined the attack squad as a volunteer tank, and Inspector Jinchul was standing there like, what in the actual hell is this kid thinking? They asked if Jinwoo had killed anyone or something, and Jinchul was like, guess we'll find out in tomorrow's headlines. Out of nowhere, a massive energy explosion nearly flattened everyone. Inside the portal, Cha was trying to figure out how Ki-hoon's team managed to take down so many superior orc, but she said that if that energy belonged to the boss, none of them were making it out alive. Back in the boss room, the Orc King was straight up clowning Jinwoo, saying he wanted to take on his mighty army with those wimpy little soldiers. Then the kid hit him with a, "Underestimate them, and y'all are getting erased." He activated Monarch's Domain, boosting his Shadow Soldier's strength by 50%. He got that skill after climbing 70 floors in the Demon Castle, and this time, they were built different. The mages couldn't even comprehend it. These guys could barely summon 2 soldiers, and here was some random human with an energy level off the charts. Then the Orc King gave the signal, and the Bacon Brigade charged straight into battle. Iron tried trash-talking the orcs, but they were too OP, and it flopped. So he just went full Thor mode and hammer-smashed those bastards into oblivion. Igris? Bro was on demon time, slicing through 30 orcs in the blink of an eye. But even they couldn't compare to the real monster, Sung Jinwoo, who was out there treating this like recess at the playground. The squad was watching like, bro fights just like Vice Leader Cha, and they were all wondering, why the hell did he hide that he was this strong? Except for Igris, Iron, and Tank. The rest of the shadows were basically at a B-rank hunter level, so Jinwoo had to wipe out as many orcs as possible before his mana ran out. Out of nowhere, the boss dropped the Dragon Fire Anthem and wiped out almost all of Jinwoo's shadow soldiers. He called them useless little puppets, but Jinwoo hit him with a, "Better watch yourself, bud," because his soldiers would keep respawning as long as he had mana. The boss tried dropping an iceberg on the protagonist's head, and before Jinwoo could even react, dude was already eating a full magic combo. The Orc King screamed that he'd keep obliterating those shadows until Jinwoo's mana ran dry. Meanwhile, the weaklings were running for their lives to avoid getting caught in the crossfire. And with all that magic flying around, Jinwoo couldn't even get close to the boss. Outside, the association measured the portal level and realized it was way stronger than expected. So they ordered reinforcements ASAP. Back inside, the Orc King was dying laughing, saying the kid must be running out of mana. But But who gets the last laugh, huh? Because unlike in his class change quest, here Jinwoo could chug as many mana potions as he wanted. And that's when things got real fun. Jinwoo straight up extracted the shadows from all the defeated superior orcs. Then he looked the Orc King dead in the eyes and said, "You're next, buddy." And of course, that set the boss completely off. Dude was about to ask if Jinwoo was that guy, but the moment he tried to say Shadow Monarch, the system hit him with a mental blue screen of death. Bro's brain was hard crashing, so instead, he sent his generals into battle, ordering them to bring back the humans' heads. Over at the Hunters Guild HQ, Choi got the news about what was happening. He said Ki-hoon's team should be more than enough to handle a portal like that. But just in case, he ordered his assistant to gather the strongest hunters in the guild. And if necessary, they'd even ask other guilds for help. Back in the boss room, the 4 strongest orc warriors charged in, and the first one immediately got whooped by iron. Igris was out here dueling 2 at the same time, to the point where he had to drop his sword, but the blade zoomed right back into the master's hands. Tank wanted in on the action too. He slapped an orc so hard it basically got deleted. Jinwoo smirked and said, "Looks like my generals are stronger than yours, huh?" The attack squad was about to step in, but the Orc King activated the Hymn of Agony, paralyzing, blinding, and locking them in place. Then he smirked and said, "Side characters don't belong on the main stage." And now, he was about to show everyone what happens when you mess with the Great Kargalan. He unleashed all his magic on Jinwoo, but that stuff shattered instantly. And our protagonist just smirked, saying he's immune to such weak curses. He summoned his mages to destroy that annoying iceberg, and with the Orb of Avarice, they became even stronger. A fireball pierced through the shield and exploded right in that bastard's face. And you already know, that made him furious. Meanwhile, Cha arrived in the middle of the chaos, rocking her mighty pickaxe, and she couldn't believe how many soldiers Jinwoo had summoned. She sprinted over to the attack squad like, "What the hell is going on?" But even they couldn't explain it. Kargalan, on the other hand, was done playing. Dude combined 300 spells at once and vowed to crush that kid like an insect. He stomped down like a colossal titan, but Jinwoo just scoffed, saying he's got bad memories with giant enemy. Bro was just throwing salt in the wound at this point. First, the boss launched a massive fireball. Then, just for good measure, he launched 50 more. They wiped out both the shadow soldiers and the superior orc. The boss smirked and asked, "Are you starting to regret it, little human?" But before he could blink, Jinwoo was already on top of him, shoving a dagger straight into his eye, and he hit him with the ultimate disrespect. The bigger you get, the easier you are to hit. Then he really rubbed it in, saying a mere shaman like him was no match for an assassin. And let's be real, Jinwoo ain't just any assassin either. Channeling the spirit of Indiana Jones, Jinwoo dodged every single attack. Then he sniped 2 daggers that broke the boss's defense and chained him up with a castle chain. He used Kargalan's own strength to yank him into the ground like a ragdoll. And lucky for us, this fight even had a VIP audience, because the association's inspector finally pulled up to witness the spectacle. He said they came to help, but looks like they won't be needing to anymore. Cha, meanwhile, was watching with sparkling eyes, saying, "This is the strength of an elite hunter, not some rank E-scrub." Then she asked, "Who even is this guy?" And even Jinchul didn't have an answer. Jinwoo just smirked and said, "Once a mage loses his guardians, he's finished." And right on cue, the Orc King started panicking, screaming that there's no way he could lose in this body. Dude started rampaging, throwing his own soldiers all over the place. But then, they slammed his face straight into the ground, and that was game over. The last thing he saw was his own former general burying a sword deep into his chest. And just like that, Jinwoo had officially cleared the dungeon boss, racking up tons of XP and a whole bunch of loot. And even though he soloed everything, he figured it wouldn't look too good if he just kept all the loot for himself. But one thing he definitely wasn't sharing: extracting the boss's shadow. And the crowd, they couldn't believe their eyes. That massive monster that had been terrorizing everyone was now kneeling before this kid. When it was time to name him, Jinwoo straight up forgot what the dude was called. So, he just went with Tusk. And this was the first time he had ever scored a Shadow Soldier with Elite Knight rank, which was more than deserved for an A-rank dungeon boss. Not to mention those superior orcs were way stronger than his usual soldiers. Jinwoo was so locked in collecting shadows that he didn't even notice Inspector Wu was standing right there. Of course, the second everyone snapped out of it, the question started flying. But the chief stepped in real quick to say that Hunter Sung Jinwoo's situation was top secret. He told everyone to keep their mouths shut about what they saw today. The assistants were going to escort him outside, and Jinchul asked everyone to cooperate and make sure his exit was low-key. But before he could leave, Ki-hoon spoke up. He said he wasn't going to ask why Jinwoo was hiding all this power, but one thing was for sure. sure. The only reason they all made it out alive was because of him. So he straight up thanked Jinwoo for saving his entire squad. And just like that, the whole crew bowed their heads in gratitude. Jinwoo suddenly remembered, oh yeah, he still had to return that healer's journal. Meanwhile, Cha really wanted to talk to him, but the mage cut in like, Vice Captain, why are you holding a pickaxe? Cha instantly turned bright red and nervously asked Jinwoo, do I look weird with this? Meanwhile, back at the Hunters Guild HQ, Chairman Choi let out a deep sigh of relief. It all worked out in the end. First, Jinwoo saved White Tiger, and now he saved them. And Choi still couldn't wrap his head around just how much power this kid had been hiding. He asked his assistant, who do you think's stronger, him or me? And the assistant just hit him with, sir, do you really think you could solo an A-rank dungeon like that? Even Choi had to admit, not a chance. So now, they had one mission. Do whatever it takes to recruit that kid. Later, at a cafe, Jinwoo met up with a little heir and asked, so, how'd the negotiations with your dad go? And Jinho had to convince him to join the guild if he wanted to be the leader. Meanwhile, at the rank evaluation building, a swarm of reporters was waiting to interview some dude named Lee Min-sung. And this guy? Already flexing hard about becoming an A rank, but he has no idea what's coming for him. Out of nowhere, reporters freaked out because Baek and Choi had shown up, demanding to know what kind of disaster was going down. One of them even asked if those two were there to recruit Lee Min-sung too, but they had no clue who that clown was. The reporters were totally disappointed, thinking they'd score an epic exclusive. Big Tiger started laughing at Four Eyes because they'd also been helped by Jinwoo, but Choi retorted that he didn't even come close to the White Tiger's red portal. He even lost a rank A recruit along the way. Still, without our boy, their Group B would have been wiped out. The two were almost about to go to war over who'd get to keep the main man. Then, out of nowhere, a bushy-haired dude popped up asking if they were fighting over Min-sung. That guy was Lim Tae-gyu, the rank S hunter and head honcho of the Reapers Guild. But the pair yelled right in his face that they couldn't care less about that dork, until young Jinwoo arrived and wondered what kind of anthill these photographers had crawled out of. I thought the news had already spread, but apparently nobody was drooling over, except for one hulking brute who blocked his way when he tried to enter the assessment building. Jinwoo said he had business with the guild, but the guy couldn't care less and told him to scram immediately. Then, out of nowhere, none other than President Go shows up, demanding to know with what authority that bodyguard was trying to kick him out. He explained that the guy was his guest and told the so-called Lee Min-sung not to forget who gave him permission to hold a conference there. So the two went in and our kid got all heated, asking how they could mess up his debut like that. He tried to enter the guild building, but Inspector Jinchul stepped in, saying he couldn't come in because another hunter was already being evaluated, which made the kid panic and demand, who do you think you are? Is that hunter so important? The inspector, with a menacing vibe, shot back, if I told you, could you handle the consequences? Of course. After that, the kid was trembling. Back at the guild, the president announced that those two had arrived an hour early, waiting for Jinwoo, since he's the first rank S hunter in 2 years. Before the evaluation, some nerd asked about Jinwoo's skills to determine his class. He boasted he could do stuff like that, and even a little shadow trick left the nerds stunned. But the president, no dummy himself, asked if that was all he could do. The protagonist replied that plenty of people have seen his moves, so he doesn't need to hide anymore. And then everyone was truly amazed, because Jinwoo summoned his top generals and even claimed he could call in another 100. Baek even asked if that monstrous energy was coming from Jinwoo, saying it didn't compare to the first time he saw him, and now he could obliterate the entire White Tiger Guild in the blink of an eye. After securing his rank S hunter license, Big Tiger went to ask if the guy had a minute for a chat. The kid said he had something to handle and tried to sneak out, but both of them warned he wasn't leaving through that door. Jinwoo figured they meant they'd prepared a contract so massive he'd regret not listening. But it turned out there were 300 paparazzi filming him. At Jinha's school, she couldn't believe it. Why was her brother on TV? 10 minutes earlier, that idiot had given a speech in jutsu, claiming he'd fight monsters to protect everyone, even if he ended up in a low rank. But obviously he was lying, because he already knew he'd drop to rank A. So he was only going to work as a hunter for 2 years to earn a fortune and then vanish. Then the reporters, drooling over him, started getting calls announcing that the 10th rank S hunter had been revealed. And it took only 5 seconds for everyone to forget about that Lee Min-sung character and rush off to interview the new rank S. Meanwhile, the head honcho of the mining crew was watching the news, wondering why Mr. Sung was on TV. That big mouth guy went nuts, demanding to know what crime he'd committed, and nearly had a heart attack when he found out that Jinwoo was now the new rank S hunter in Korea. Even Joo-hee and Mr. Song, who were busy training Cha, were glued to the news. Jinho's dad announced that Jinwoo had been crowned a rank S mage, and then asked if the young heir managed to rope him into the guild. Jinwoo apologized, saying he couldn't manage it. He added that his buddy was hell-bent on starting his own guild, and even offered him a vice leader spot. His old man flashed a grin and explained he didn't set up the Yu-Jin guild just for cash. He's rolling in money, but to protect the crew. He declared that Jinwoo was approved to lead the Yu-Jin guild, giving a whole speech about counting on him to handle everything, and the young heir thanked him. But then he said he couldn't do that because he was joining his brother's guild, which his billionaire dad definitely didn't see coming. Back at the association, little Jinwoo was confused why everyone was snapping pics of him instead of little Star. Even Bayek tried to act all smart, saying he'd help him get home. But in the blink of an eye, Jinwoo vanished, and then reappeared behind the reporters. Master Choi couldn't believe a mage could be that fast, and Tiger was fuming because his eyes couldn't even keep up. He then declared that the new Sung Jinwoo is definitely stronger than both. The kid Jinwoo strolled into a fancy gear shop to buy fireproof equipment and asked the owner if it was safe to stash such valuable items behind just a pane of glass. The Four Eyes guy, all cocky, said that glass could take a punch from a rank A hunter. If Jinwoo could break a pane, he'd get all the loot. Just a light tap from him had the dude shaking in his boots, mumbling he was only messing around. But he was clearly freaked out because that one tap nearly shattered the glass. Jinwoo then asked the price of a dagger and was shocked to learn it was 30 million, even though it was weaker than the blue Kasaka dagger. When he asked about the dagger he'd bought from the system store, he almost lost it when the guy said it cost 100 million. Later that night, Bak was deep in thought, saying with his tiger-like vision, he was sure Jinwoo was weaker than him in that red portal incident. But now our kid's having a field day at his place. He and his sister barely get a minute of peace because reporters had even pitched a tent outside his house just to interview the kid. Suddenly, someone rings the doorbell and he opens it with blood in his eyes, but it's just the little heir camping at his place. After the two crash, our protagonist sneaks out, warning that someone might tail his sister while he's gone. So he plants a superior orc in her shadow as a guard and scatters extra shadow clones around the neighborhood, playing Dark Knight Vigilante. Then he grabs a lift with Jinho to the demon castle. This time he's way stronger than before. But now he's been handed an even tougher mission: defeat the demon monarch. There were some goat suckers roaming about, so he decided to leave that greed orb with Tusk. If the beast was already strong before, imagine now that his powers doubled. He hurled a wicked fireball that obliterated not only that titan, but everything in its path. Meanwhile, Jinho's dad ended up in the hospital, sleeping for 2 whole days, with the doc saying he might have eternal sleep syndrome, the same disease that took Jinwoo's mom. Now things really hit rock bottom, boss. Back in Japan, 2 hunters spotted a giant flying ant. At the demon castle, Jinwoo's shadow storage capacity had skyrocketed, and he lamented that if he could extract demon shadow, he'd have an enormous army. So he split his soldiers into 6 teams to speed things up, ordering them to wipe out any enemy they see and shout out when they find the next floor access permit. Soon he realized his mana was draining way too fast and discovered some cranky knights were even taking out their own general. Then it was time for Daddy to step in. One knight noticed his presence and charged at him, but Jinwoo dodged every blow and sent him packing. 2 others tried to sneak up from behind but were sliced to ribbons. The knight's captain even wondered aloud if monsters feel fear too, and now he was certain they do. He was ready to finish off that knight, but just as he was about to stab his dagger into the helmet, he heard a girl's voice surrendering. When he took off the helmet, it turned out to be an elf girl begging for her life. Jinwoo wasn't buying it. She attacked his soldiers, and now she wanted mercy? But she said she had only followed orders to defend the area against invaders like him. As Jinwoo turned his back to leave, she tried to pull a fast one and stab him from behind, but she ended up slamming right into Tusk's shield. Jinwoo just looked at her like, "Really? That's your plan?" She immediately started groveling again, apologizing nonstop. Jinwoo asked if she could get him the entry permit, and she said her family protects it. If he escorted her home, she could get him one. But could he really trust her? She swore on her life that she wasn't lying. Jinwoo shrugged and said that if she got him the permit, he wouldn't have to wreck the place. Then he asked who the hell she was. Meanwhile, on an island far away, a man was getting eaten alive by a giant ant, and another guy standing nearby didn't last much longer. And now things just got worse, because the ants learned how to fly. Back in Demon Castle, the elf girl introduced herself as Princess Essel of the Radier clan. But Jinwoo didn't care about fancy title. He wanted to know if she heard voices in her head telling her to wipe out human. She said no, but she did hear a voice telling her to protect this place ever since they arrived. Apparently, her people used to live in the demon world but somehow ended up here. When Jinwoo asked why they were preparing for war, she suddenly froze, her brain short-circuiting. Then she barely managed to say that their enemies were so powerful that the entire demon race had to unite against them. But before she could reveal more, some mysterious force cut off her speech, saying Jinwoo was asking too many questions. And just like that, Essel collapsed on the ground. At the Hunter Association, things weren't looking good. They were analyzing footage from the mutant ant attack. 294 civilians wiped out. 6 hunters sent to help, also gone. And the worst part? The island that got attacked was 150 kilometers from Jeju. If these ants can fly this far, it's only a matter of time before they start attacking everywhere. South Korea couldn't handle this alone, so they had no choice but to ask for reinforcements from other countries. Back at Demon Castle, Essel finally woke up, apologizing for passing out. Jinwoo just asked if they were there yet. She pointed ahead. Her family's castle was just around the corner. When they arrived, her father immediately panicked. He demanded to know who the hell this monster was that she had brought home. Essel tried to explain that Jinwoo was just a guest, but her father wasn't having it. He didn't trust someone who showed up with an entire army. Without hesitation, he ordered his knights to take Jinwoo down. But Jinwoo remained calm as ever and told him he just wanted the entry permit. The king suddenly realized who he was dealing with. This was the same man who annihilated Vulcan and Metis like it was nothing. There was no way they could defeat him. So, with no other choice, the king handed over the permit and told him to leave. But then, Jinwoo dropped a bombshell. He was taking the princess with him. Before the king could lose his mind, Jinwoo clarified that he only needed her to find the other permits. He promised to protect her, and after a lot of hesitation, the king finally agreed. Outside the castle, Jinwoo kept wiping the floor with those demon knights. He also noticed that Igris and Tank were getting stronger by the minute. Essel warned him that the monsters on the upper floors were on a whole different level compared to the ones they'd fought so far. But Jinwoo just told her not to worry, saying that none of these so-called noble clans stood a chance against him. That's when Essel straight up asked why he let her family live. And Jinwoo, without hesitation, hit her with the most unexpected answer, "Because I like you." Boom! Instant heart attack. Her brain short-circuited, and her soul nearly left her body. But before she could start daydreaming about their future, Jinwoo casually told her she could go home now since all he really needed was the locations of the permits. He warned her that the upcoming battles would be way tougher, so it was too dangerous for her to stick around. And just like that, her heart shattered into a million pieces. She asked if she was useless to him now, but Jinwoo reassured her that she had already helped a lot. Still, she begged him to let her stay and watch him fight. She needed to see it for herself. Jinwoo sighed, realizing he had no choice, and told her not to fall behind. And she wasn't exaggerating. Even Jinwoo admitted that the fights were 90 times harder than before. But did that stop him? Nah. He still dragged those monsters' faces through the dirt like they were nothing. Meanwhile, over at the Hunters Guild, Four Eyes and Cha just received an urgent request from the association. They were needed for a mission against the mutant ants. And apparently, another rank S guild leader was coming to help as well. Back at the Demon Castle, Jinwoo and Essel finally reached the 100th floor, the final boss room. And just as Essel opened her mouth to say, looks empty, a giant dragon blasted through the ceiling, lightning everywhere. The place was getting obliterated, and riding on top of that terrifying wyvern was none other than Baron, the Demon King. Even Jinwoo felt that this was going to be a problem. And Essel, bro, she was seconds away from a full-blown panic attack. To make things worse, the dude could fly. Then, before anyone could react, Baran hit them with some Naruto-level Edo Tensei and started summoning an army of demons. Jinwoo wasn't expecting that many enemies, so he countered immediately by calling in his shadow army. The battlefield was pure chaos. Tusk nuked the entire field with a fire tsunami, taking out 300 demons in one go. Essel was in total shock, struggling to decide whose side she should be on. Should she fight for the king of all demons, or for the overpowered invader who just steamrolled his way here? Before she could make a choice, Baran unleashed a Kamehameha from the sky, nuking everything in sight. Shadow soldiers were getting erased left and right, and Essel was about to be next. But at the last possible second, Jinwoo swooped in and saved her like it was a superhero movie. That's when he realized these weren't normal lightning bolts. They paralyzed anyone who got hit. And if he didn't find a way around it, his soldiers would disappear and his mana would run out. So he activated stealth mode, went full speed, and tried to slice that dragon's wings off. But Baran blocked it, then countered with a brutal attack, sending Jinwoo crashing into the ground like a meteor. Jinwoo barely dodged another point-blank lightning blast, knowing full well that if one of those hit him, even plot armor wouldn't save him. So he called in Tusk, who, thanks to the Orb of Avarice, overpowered Baran's attack. And just like that, Jinwoo saw his chance. One clean swing, and the wyvern's head joined his growing collection. Now that Baran was finally on the ground, Jinwoo cracked his neck and said, "Took you long enough. My neck was starting to hurt from looking up. It's time to throw hands." Meanwhile, back at the Hunter Association, President Go was meeting with the Bakken Guild, led by Ryuji Koto, aka the second strongest hunter in all of Asia. They thanked him for agreeing to help with the mutant ant invasion. Then, one of the assistants explained the plan. First, they revealed that ants only live for about a year, so if they could kill the queen, then the entire colony would naturally die off within a year. Ryuji then announced that 11 rank S hunters from his guild, including himself, would engage the ants directly, keeping them distracted while South Korea's hunters focused on taking out the queen. Even the president was caught off guard by how crazy that plan was. But with everything settled, they got to work finalizing the mission details. At the Demon Castle, it was like World War III out there. Tusk was blocking the Demon King's beams while the crew went at him like a pack of wild dogs. Iron got sworded right in the forehead, and Igris got tossed aside. Jinwoo even tried to ambush that punk, but he got blocked and nearly had his head crushed. Then Tusk grabbed the big sword, Jinwoo sliced Baran's arm, and everyone jumped in. But that bastard unleashed an area attack that wiped out all the shadows and left our kid out of mana. No worries though, he's been flying solo in battle his whole life. He was trading blows with that fearsome Demon King, and it was the first time Jinwoo faced someone stronger than him. He tried to block a hit, but his daggers went flying. He got pummeled so hard he nearly lost his breath, but somehow clung onto the demon's arms. Then he started channeling a nuclear bomb of an attack that was about to obliterate him, until the elven princess threw a sword at the Demon King that barely made a dent. That distraction was just enough for Jinwoo to lock him down with his Dominator touch, ripping off Baran's arms and finishing him off with a meteor punch that literally sent the Demon King's head to the moon. That was the first time he knocked a head clean off with a punch instead of slicing it with a dagger. The bastard went down, and Jinwoo got a notification. He had defeated the Demon Monarch. All the enemies vanished, and the princess ran over to the kid. But he told her to go home and let her dad know that now the Radis clan is the biggest clan in hell. And she started crying happy tears, laughing that he even got her clan's name wrong. After everything, he finally obtained the Demon King's purified blood, the key ingredient to crafting the elixir of life. But as soon as he checked the crafting menu, he realized there was a catch. The success rate depended on his intelligence stat, which was basically non-existent. Still, against all odds, he managed to brew 6 elixirs like it was nothing. Now the real test, would it actually work on? Before he could overthink, Iron pulled up with a fresh corpse of that flying lizard from earlier. Jinwoo, never missing an opportunity, extracted its shadow right away, adding a wyvern to his army. The beast was massive, and just looking at it, you could tell this thing was built different. Essel, of course, wasted no time clowning Jinwoo for forgetting the name of the wyvern, so he did the most Jinwoo thing possible. He named it Kaisel on the spot. The princess got hyped, saying they could ride Kaisel all the way home in no time. Her dad would even throw them a fancy banquet as a thank you. Meanwhile, in the middle of all these crazy rewards, Jinwoo got one of the most broken abilities ever, Shadow Exchange. This let him swap places with any shadow in his army, no matter where they were in the world. Basically, it was better than Sasuke's Rinnegan and Law's Room combined. That's when he hit Essel with "my bad, but you're on your own" speech. Her castle was 20 floors below, and that was way too far just to eat some fancy dinner. She was this close to confessing her feeling, but before she could, Jinwoo had already swapped places with one of his knights and teleported straight to a back alley in his own neighborhood. And because being flashy is in his DNA, he summoned Kaisel and flew home in the most dramatic way possible. Meanwhile, at the Hunter Association, President Go and the inspectors were cooking up a strategy to wipe out the mutant ants. They discovered that these bugs communicate through sound waves, so Ryuji Goto was planning to jam their signal, making it way easier to take down the queen and her guards. Elsewhere, at a sketchy bar, Baek was drowning in booze with a retired rank S healer, Min Byung-gu. This guy could heal just about anything, but when Baek asked if he was really not going to help with Jeju, Byung-gu shut him down instantly. He had zero interest in going back to that bloodbath. Baek didn't even try to convince him. Instead, he just said goodbye, knowing this might be his last mission. Byung-gu admitted he hated seeing so much blood, which is why he retired from hunting to become a teacher. Baek, being Baek, told him that was a huge waste of talent. Back at the hospital, Jinwoo arrived to see his sleeping beauty of a mom, remembering the day she burned herself protecting him. This was it. He pulled out the elixir but hesitated. What if she couldn't swallow it? What if it didn't work? But then he thought about all the miracles the system had already pulled off. If anything could wake her up, it was this. The moment she drank it, her burn scars disappeared. Then, her wrinkles vanished. She was literally de-aging before his eyes. Jinwoo held his breath, praying she would wake up. Sunlight started shining through the window, and then it happened. She opened her eyes. She sat up, healthy, fresh, and looking 20 years younger. She was confused as hell, asking how long she had been out. And when Jinwoo told her it had been 4 years, she couldn't believe it. She thanked him for keeping his promise, knowing he must have gone through hell to get to this moment. And for the first time in forever, Jinwoo couldn't hold back. The next day, doctors were freaking out. This was the first time ever that someone woke up from eternal slumber disease. Meanwhile, Gina pulled up and immediately burst into tears. Her mom was finally back, and Jinwoo was proud as hell that all his suffering finally paid off. At the press conference, President Go was on live TV, announcing the upcoming operation against the mutant ants. The Korean Hunters Association announced that 10 Rank S hunters from Japan would be joining the fight, while the Rank A and lower hunters would stay behind to protect the country. Meanwhile, Min Byung-gu, the Rank S healer, started reminiscing about the time he went drinking with Baek and that one friend who became history. Back at Jinwoo's house, his little sister had turned the place into a disaster zone, and their mom, who literally just woke up from a 4-year coma, was already cleaning up. At this point, she probably wished she had stayed asleep. She found a family photo and remembered that their dad pulled the classic going out for cigarettes move and never came back. She saw the news about Jinwoo becoming a hunter like his father, and just as Gina was flexing about almost becoming a doctor, Jinwoo got a call. At the association, President Go and Inspector Jinchul were discussing why the hell Thomas Andre, the strongest hunter in America, was in South Korea. Was he here to help with the ants, or just taking a vacation? Meanwhile, Jinwoo arrived, and the old man wasted no time explaining that they'd be heading out in 4 days to take down them to ants. He asked if Jinwoo was down to join the fight. Jinwoo knew this was a huge chance to level up, but with his mom finally back, he was this close to saying no. That is, until he felt a crazy tremor, something even President Go was shocked he noticed from that distance. Turns out, all the Rank S hunters were throwing hands at the academy, so they invited Jinwoo to watch. And let me tell you, it was nothing but high-level brawl. Beck, in his furious tiger mode, was getting smacked around by some judo master. The guy even joked that Beck was way too young to have all that gray hair. President Go explained that having all the Rank S hunters in one place was a rare sight, and that insane energy surge must have been from their sparring. Jinwoo was shocked to see Bayek struggling, but Four Eyes appeared out of nowhere, saying that if Bayek went all out, Dong-wook wouldn't stand a chance, even though he was also a Rank S and guild leader. Jinwoo asked why Beck wasn't fighting seriously against such a strong opponent, and Choi explained that Bayek doesn't like going all out in front of an audience. Apparently, when he fully transforms, he becomes such a terrifying monster that even the devil himself gets scared. Meanwhile, the Japanese Rank S hunters had arrived, led by none other than Ryuji Goto. One of the Japanese hunters asked about the guy standing above them, and their assistant explained that Jinwoo just became a Rank S. Goto, sensing his overwhelming aura, assumed he was some kind of monster assassin. But when he was told Jinwoo was actually a mage, he was shook. Meanwhile, Lim Taegyu realized that the brat who ruined Min Sung's debut was here, and Cha Hai-in was straight up fangirling. Everyone was focused on Bayek versus Karate Kid, but Goto's assistant was unimpressed with the Korean Rank S hunters. Suddenly, Park Jong-soo, master of the Night Guild, barged in, furious that she was calling them weak just because she was talking in Japanese. Dude was feeling himself a little too much, despite only being Rank A. His hype man wouldn't shut up about how amazing he was, but Cha had to step in to calm him down. Then, Goto suggested a friendly tournament between Korea's and Japan's Rank S hunter. The president immediately agreed, saying they should exclude mages and non-combatants. Baek explained the rules. You lose if you get wrist-locked, take a hit to the back, or touch the ground with anything other than your feet. Instead of one-on-one battles, he wanted a full-on battle royale. Since the raid would be pure chaos, they needed to practice dealing with multiple enemies at once. For Team Korea, they had Cha, the homeless-looking guy, Cobra Kai, and the big tiger. On Team Japan, they had 4 cracked hunters talking big, saying they were gonna wipe the floor with the Koreans. And before you ask, where's Jinwoo? Don't worry, he's about to make his entrance, and it's gonna be legendary. Jinwoo quickly noticed that Goto wasn't even fighting. He was just watching and analyzing everyone. Meanwhile, Dong-wook activated beast mode, and the matches started right away. Beak went against the masked guy, while the rest went all in. The The fight kicked off with a mana Gatling gun, just to set the tone. Taegyu was getting overwhelmed by Speedster, but instead of panicking, he used his opponent's speed against him. Meanwhile, a mana arrow almost caught Top Knot Guy off guard, and he immediately ordered his team to focus on Taegyu first. But this wasn't the time to let your guard down. He looked away for just a second and almost got a flying kick to the face. The arena was built using the strongest magic stones in Korea, but these hunters were tearing it apart like it was paper. The Japanese hunters knew Bayek was the biggest threat, and if he got close, he wouldn't just grab their wrists, he'd snap them in half. Eye Patch Guy was already nervous, but after Bayek transformed, he probably wished he were anywhere else. The fight gets serious. Karate Kid got slammed into the floor by Top Knot Guy, Taegyu was completely pinned, and Coward Boy was running for his life from Bayek. Meanwhile, Cha was giving her opponent no room to breathe. She was moving so smoothly that they called her the ballerina. After taking down her opponent, she ran to back up Beck, but the coward tried to take her out from behind. Mistake. She hit him so hard he nearly flew out of the arena. But now things were getting serious. He activated Berserker mode, meaning he wouldn't stop until someone got taken out. And Goto didn't care one bit. Kumamoto was so fast that Cha struggled to keep up. He used the smoke to hide his movements and go for the kill. But Jinwoo suddenly appeared, blocking his strike effortlessly and calling him out for taking things too far. Kumamoto was pissed, but before he could react, Jinwoo had him locked down. Goto watched in disbelief. There was no way this kid was just a maid. Jinwoo turned to Cha and said they should count this as a loss, since Bayek was already out too. But now things were getting even more interesting. Goto's assistant approached and invited Jinwoo to fight Goto himself. No need for translation. It was obvious what he wanted. And since Jinwoo wanted to test his power after conquering the Demon Castle, he wasn't going to back down. But Goto didn't like that smirk on Jinwoo's face. The translator relayed the message. Jinwoo accepted, but with one condition. Goto had to go all out. This kid was too confident, and the audience was stunned. Who in their right mind challenges the second strongest hunter in Asia like this? Cha knew Jinwoo could solo a rank-a dungeon boss, but could he take on Goto? She asked Bayek if they should stop this fight. The logical answer was yes, but nobody wanted to miss this match. Jinwoo stretched a bit and got ready. Before he could blink, Goto threw a massive punch straight at his face. Too bad for him, Jinwoo dodged just in time. And Goto realized this wasn't going to be easy. Jinwoo could tell Goto was stronger than any hunter he had faced before, but all that strength means nothing if you can't even land a hit. Ryuji cranked up the speed the moment he saw Jinwoo smirking again. The audience was already in shock that Jinwoo could dodge punches flying at light speed, but Cha was the only one who caught on. Jinwoo wasn't even serious yet. He was just toying with Goto, testing his strength. Goto realized that if he didn't go all out, he might actually lose to this kid, so he decided to just kill him outright. He threw a meteor punch, grazing Jinwoo by a hair. Jinwoo knew that if this kept escalating, he'd get one of those kill or be killed quests again. So he caught Goto's fist mid-air and smirked, saying, "You almost lost an eye there." Then added, "I didn't grab your wrist on purpose, because I don't want to end this too soon." Their auras exploded, shaking the entire arena. People felt like the whole place would be reduced to rubble if these two kept going. So Bayek and Cha rushed in to hold Jinwoo back, while the Japanese hunters restrained Goto. After all, they had a huge raid on Jeju Island soon. They couldn't afford to die. Things finally calmed down, and Jinwoo finished sizing everyone up. But the crazy part? None of these rank S hunters even noticed Jinwoo's shadow soldiers lurking right under their feet. Jeju Island raid preparations. Later, Jinwoo met with the president to discuss the upcoming raid. Meanwhile, Goto was on the phone, saying that Korea's hunters were strong enough to keep up with Japan's. But then, everyone, Goto, Cha, and Bayek, were stunned to hear that Jinwoo wasn't joining the raid. No big deal, right? After all, this time, there were 16 rank S hunters. Victory was guaranteed, right? That night, Jinwoo arrived home to a home-cooked meal, and this was exactly why he couldn't join the raid. His mom had just woken up after 4 years. He wasn't leaving her now. Meanwhile, on Jeju Island, the ant army was feasting like a pack of starving wolves. The queen watched over them, saying they needed to migrate. They had already eaten everything, but then she added, "We need stronger soldiers." And just like that, she revealed her latest creation, the strongest being this world has ever seen. And not to spoil too much, but what this thing does to the hunters, yeah, it's not even fair. This thing had just hatched, but was already radiating monstrous energy. Meanwhile, the news spread worldwide. The ants had evolved. Now they could fly. People rallied to defend their country from this flying nightmare swarm. And then, the day of the Jeju Island raid finally arrived. The raid begins, all military ships lined up, while Park Jong-soo led the lower-rank hunters to protect Korea. At the same time, the Rank S hunters said their goodbyes to their families. They were boarding the helicopters, ready to enter hell itself. Now that's patriotism. Even weaker hunters stepped up to help defend the nation. The president himself was shocked at how many hunters had volunteered. And then came the biggest surprise. Baek's jaw dropped when he saw Min Byung-gu had finally stopped being a coward. Now they had a Rank S healer on their side. Meanwhile, Goto's team had already reached the island's center. He gave the order, everyone take positions. One Rank A hunter was even sent with the Korean team to live stream the entire raid. People thought it was a death sentence, but he shrugged it off, saying, "Don't worry, I've filmed in way worse places." The attack squad was ready. The president gave the signal. The fourth Jeju Island raid had begun. The Japanese hunters unleashed a ridiculous amount of mana to draw out all the ant soldiers. But the flying ones were aiming straight for the helicopter, and Four Eyes stepped up, saying, "Don't worry, I got this." They opened the hatch and he rained down flaming arrows, blowing up the ants mid-air. But some survived the fireworks, so he had to launch a fireball to finish the job. Meanwhile, Choi was hyped as hell. Today was finally the day they'd wipe out these damn ants. Time to land, baby! The Japanese hunters were supposed to hold back the ant army for an hour, meaning they had exactly that much time to take down the queen. Japan's navy launched their interference signal to block the ants from receiving the queen's commands. Meanwhile, the ladies were slicing through the swarm. While that one coward stood there frozen like a deer in headlights, Choi sealed the nest entrance with a giant firewall, cutting off any reinforcements. Baek was trying to figure out which tunnel led to the queen, but Four Eyes didn't even think twice. He just set all of them on fire. Meanwhile, back at Jinwoo's place, Jinwoo was just chilling, knocking out his daily quest. Those guys should be strong enough to handle this raid without me. Meanwhile, back on Jeju Island, the hunters were starting to doubt if the queen was really inside. But then, Choi showed them a room packed with eggs, meaning she had to be close. Except there was one massive egg in the middle that had already hatched, and you already know the squad was sweating bullets. What kind of freak of nature crawled out of that thing? Kenzo had a cut on his shoulder, and the Rank S healer asked if he needed healing. But instead of just helping, she started teasing him, saying, "You know it's not going to be free, right?" And she wasn't talking about money. But before Kenzo could even ask, a horde of ants started swarming toward them. All right, what do you want in return?" Except she never answered, because when Kenzo turned to look, her head had already been sliced clean off. Bro, what the hell just happened? They're about to meet a monster so powerful, they'll wish they were never born. The healer girl started bleeding from her head, and the two guys froze in pure terror. Kenzo barely saw a blur before trying to land a hit, but guess what? His head was already gone. Nerdboy was about to have a heart attack and swung his sword in desperation. But let's be real, if heads ain't flying, it ain't solo leveling. Meanwhile, the squad was still fighting ants inside the nest. Even though these things had the strength of Rank S hunters, they were still monstered, meaning they were predictable. Cha stabbed right through one, slicing it like a hot knife through butter. She noticed they had tougher shells, and was actually happy there weren't that many. Byung told them not to worry since he'd protect them if more showed up. Yeah, that's cute. Baek tried to roast him for acting all tough, but then immediately embarrassed himself. He forgot to crush the ant's head, so the thing got back up. Now they realized it was only going to get harder from here. Cha suddenly caught the scent of a powerful monster, and Baek used his tiger vision to scan the cave. That's when he saw it, the queen, surrounded by thousands of royal guards. He hit them with a motivational anime speech, hyping them up for the fight ahead. Meanwhile, outside, the rest of the Japanese hunters finally arrived. They couldn't find their three missing teammates. Robin Hood spotted Nerdboy's glasses on the ground and turned pale when he saw all that blood. Then, out of nowhere, Kay collapsed, unable to breathe from the overwhelming aura of death. Dude panicked so hard, he froze the entire area, trapping himself inside like he was trying to cosplay as Elsa. Baru just walked through it all like it was nothing, shattering everything in his path. Back in the city, the masked coward and gangsta girl still couldn't reach their team, but they didn't have time to stress, because a full-blown ant tsunami was charging straight at them. Inside the nest, the crew finally reached the queen's chamber. With over 50,000 enemies waiting, they had to match that energy. The healer buffed everyone up, turning them even more OP. Dongwook transformed into a gorilla, staring the queen down like, "I'm your problem." Choi flooded the nest with fire, setting ants ablaze left and right. Then, just to flex, he summoned a massive fire dragon and launched it straight at them. But the bigger ants walked out unharmed, so it was Tiger Bayek's turn to shine. He went full psycho mode, slamming ants into the walls, grinning like a lunatic. This was his true beast form, the one that even nightmares fear. Meanwhile, our cameraman was grinding for views, trying to get the best shot of the action. His boss called him, yelling, "We've got 80% of the audience locked in. Get a better angle." But the healer told him to shut up if he didn't want to become ant food. Meanwhile, across the country, people were glued to their screens, watching this absolute massacre on every TV, billboard, and phone. Dongwook loaded up an army on his shield, then blasted them away in one go. Taegyu, after playing too much Minecraft, shot 1,000,000 arrows into the air, hoping at least one would hit. Lobo slashed through the ants, tearing them into pieces for a barbecue. Choi burned everything in sight, while Cha dropped from above, slicing through them like a ninja. Finally, after wiping out the guards, only one enemy remained, the queen. She swung her massive claw, aiming to end them all right there. But Dongwook blocked it with his shield. Taegyu fired more arrows, but they barely scratched her tough exoskeleton. Baek told them not to panic. A queen without her guards is just a sitting duck, but she spat out some nasty poison to shut him up. Luckily, the healer was quick on the trigger and cured them instantly. The queen wasn't dumb though. She went straight for the one keeping them alive. Four Eyes yelled for everyone to back up. He was about to turn this bug into dust. He launched a massive explosion, but this monster was built different. She tanked it like it was nothing. She took a fireball to the face and tried to fight back, but the two powerhouses grabbed her legs, shouting for Cha to finish the job. Cha rushed in at full speed, buffed up and ready to slice. She hacked off every leg, leaving the queen flat on the ground, then finished her with one final slash. Just like that, another head went flying. The whole country erupted in celebration. After 4 failed attempts, they finally wiped out the demonic ants. Baek, though, was still bothered by the queen's final scream. Byung told him to let it go. They had avenged their fallen comrades, and the remaining ants would be wiped out in a year. But happiness never lasts, huh? Goto's assistant broke the bad news. The ants were returning to the nest, and their interference signal had stopped working. Choi's fire barrier had been shattered, and now they realized that last scream from the queen wasn't a death cry, it was a call for help. The problem? Those weakling ants couldn't have broken the barrier, which meant something far worse was coming. The monster, the machine, the walking nightmare, Beru, a pitch-black ant that instantly filled the air with terror. The moment Cha felt its aura, she nearly passed out from sheer dread. Dongwook tried to attack first, but before he could even move, half his body was already torn apart. And the worst part? Beru didn't even acknowledge them. He walked right past them, heading straight for the queen's corpse. Then he did the unthinkable. He devoured his own mother, letting out a roar full of rage. Beru turned around, murder in his eyes. In a blink, he appeared behind Cha and smashed her into the wall so hard she almost became part of it. Dongwook transformed to fight, but one flick from Beru's claw shattered his arm. Then he tossed him aside, leaving him dangling like a scarecrow. Even Tiger Bayek in full beast mode was completely outmatched. Choi tried to cast a spell, but before he could finish, Beru slashed his chest open. Taegyu fired an arrow straight at Beru, but he caught it midair and threw it right back. Dongwook barely survived, thanks to the rank S healer. Byung was hiding, using stealth, swearing as long as he was there, he wouldn't lose. Yeah, about that. Beru grabbed him by the leg and swung him like a ragdoll. Dongwook lost consciousness, and not even the camouflaged healer escaped. Tiger Bayek was frozen in shock. Byung had just been erased from existence. Byung tried to warn Bayek to run, but it was too late. With a hole in his stomach, he still went for the kill, biting off the healer's head like a snack. And you know what they say? Who heals the healer? Baek snapped and charged in full force, but Beru threw his best friend's corpse at him before grabbing him by the throat. With his energy drained, Baek was forced out of his transformation, but what really sent chills down his spine? Beru had started to speak. He repeated Byung's final words right back at them, called them weakling, saying killing them wasn't enough to avenge his queen. Then, scanning the area, he asked a simple question. Where is your king? Before anyone could react, Beru sensed something powerful, and without hesitation, he rushed straight toward it. Baek started wondering if Beru was talking about Goto, but there was no time for that now. They needed to get out of there as soon as possible. But just as they were about to run, thousands of ants finally arrived. Outside, Goto's team was confused. They couldn't reach Kenzo and the others, but figured they just lost the signal. But then they spotted a massive ice spike, and that's when they realized what really happened. Goto's boss called, asking why he was taking so long to report in. That's when Goto dropped the bomb. They had casualty, and his boss didn't see that one coming. He had already sent his team to take care of the weaker ants, leaving only the Koreans to deal with the real nightmare. But his boss didn't care. He said as long as Ryuji Goto was alive, a few losses didn't matter. Then these two scumbags started celebrating. With the ants back in the nest, the Koreans had a 0% survival rate. Japan was about to become the world's strongest nation, wiping out their biggest rival's entire military force. And on top of that, they'd get all the glory for clearing a rank S raid. So this piece of trash ordered Goto's team to retreat and rendezvous with the others. Of course, Big Bad Beru wasn't gonna let these rats escape. He flashed his claws at those traitors, and while Goto barely blocked it, Ishida, well, let's just say she didn't make it. Big Boss told the other loser to run, saying he'd only get in the way. That's when Beru asked, "Are you the king?" And Goto freaked out. This monster could talk, but he pulled himself together and declared that yes, he was the king. That's when Beru unleashed his aura, so terrifying that for a second Goto thought he was facing Jinwoo himself. Meanwhile, inside the nest, things were going from bad to worse. The ants kept swarming, and Bayek screamed for Choi to boost the flame, but poor Choi was completely drained. Everyone was so injured they could barely stay on their feet. They started accepting their fate. This was the end, but right before they were wiped out, Jinwoo's shadow soldiers burst out of them like a freaking horror movie. Beck had no clue what was happening, but then, standing on top of a building looking like a damn legend, Jinwoo had arrived. Using his shadow exchange, he teleported straight into the battlefield. Our cameraman had no clue what was going on, and the hunters were even more lost. Igris came in swinging that oversized sword like a Beyblade, while Iron was smashing bugs like they owed him money. Tusk turned those insects into ground beef, and just like that, the real boss of this dungeon had arrived. The squad was completely baffled while Four Eyes was trying to process what Jinwoo was even doing there. They still hadn't realized the dude was the general of this cracked army. Back in the city, Juhee and Mr. Song were confused that the broadcast just went poof. Meanwhile, the president and inspector were sweating bullets, wondering what happened to the hunters. At the network station, they were losing all their views since they had to cut the footage to avoid showing the hunters getting wrecked. The boss tried calling the cameraman, but no signal. Jinwoo told Iron to use taunt, and boom, all the ants locked onto him like he just insulted their queen. He and Igris went on a bug-squashing spree while Tusk popped up a shield to protect the confused and battered hunters. Bake started firing off questions like it was a press conference, but Jinwoo told him to hold up, drink a potion, and he'd explain later. Danwook didn't believe that juice could actually heal him, but Jinwoo hit him with the classic, "Just shut up and drink it," and suddenly the man was patched up like a brand new action figure. But Cha was in such bad shape, even the potion said, "Nah, bro." So Jinwoo told them to carry her and stay behind him. He'd handle the mess ahead. That's when a whole wave of ants decided to crash the party. Back at the association, the president was trying to get an update, but no one had answers since the big black ant had cut all comms, including with the Japanese squad. So President Go ordered all medical and rescue teams on standby. Man was salty about being too old to fight and started praying that everyone made it out. Meanwhile, Gina was smacking the TV thinking it broke. Mom told her that wasn't going to help, and Genius over here switched to her phone to check the stream. On the Japanese Navy ship, the captain explained they lost contact with Goto. Turns out some ultra-powerful monster appeared and added Goto's head to the collection. The Japanese boss was fuming, calling Goto useless and raging that 7 out of their 10 rank S hunters had been wiped out. But when he heard the monster went back into the ant nest, he cracked a smile like a Disney villain, claiming no Koreans would survive and Japan would stay on top. Man, I can't wait to see that mustache go flying. Back in the nest, Jinwoo's elite generals were throwing a rager while the basic shadows were struggling with the ants. Jinwoo wanted to add more to his squad using shadow extraction, but too many eyes were watching. Not that it mattered anymore. His secret was long gone. So he warned the hunters that he was about to go full savage and told them to stay behind Tusk. He asked them to keep quiet about what they were about to see. But just as he went to extract, something crazy happened. The ants stepped aside. No joke. They bowed their heads and cleared the path like he was the king of bugs himself. That's right. Beru was back after humbling that loudmouth Goto. Even Jinwoo's shadow soldier stood there like, "Yo, who invited this guy?" That aura was different, and everyone felt it. The bug let out a rage-fueled scream, yelling that the king wasn't outside either. Then he asked, "Is the true king right here?" Jinwoo realized this was the freak that had erased the shadow he'd planted on Goto, and when he stepped forward, the hunters collectively clutched their pearls in panic. No one could tell whose aura was more terrifying, Jinwoo's or Beru's. My dude, the showdown we've all been waiting for just dropped. The giant roach asked if Jinwoo was the king of humans, and Jinwoo straight up laughed in his face like, "You're just a talking bug, my guy." Beru said he had a strong aura, then let out a scream that nearly sent the hunters flying, but Jinwoo didn't even flinch. "Bro, you stink worse than gym socks in July," Jinwoo clapped back. Choi was sweating bullets, thinking even our boy couldn't handle this freak. After a billion connection attempts, the broadcast finally came back online. The boss yelled to get it back on the air, but his assistant was like, "Have you lost your mind? We can't bleep anything out if this goes south." But the boss didn't care. Better traumatize the audience than lose those sweet, sweet ratings. People were shook. Juhee, Mr. Song, everyone who'd ever teamed up with Jinwoo were watching with their jaws on the floor. His sister was the most confused of all, since 3 minutes ago, he told her he was just going to the corner store. Now he's throwing hands in Hell's backyard. The president even snapped his chair in half from excitement. Jinchul was like, "Wait, how did he even get to Jeju?" But no one cared anymore. Everything was riding on Jinwoo. Beru swung a killer right hook at Jinwoo, and Choi questioned why a so-called mage was even up close like that. Beru scoffed and said Jinwoo was too weak to be a king, but his expression changed real quick when Jinwoo didn't budge. Then Jinwoo activated Dominator's Touch and slammed Beru into the ground like he was dunking trash into a dumpster, followed up with a meteor punch that nearly hit, but Beru managed to dodge at the last second. Danwook asked Bayek if Jinwoo was really a mage, but at this point nobody knew anything anymore. Beru came back swinging with the force of Thor's hammer, but Jinwoo blocked it like it was just a light slap. The camera guy, being a regular old rank A, could barely stay standing as the real fight kicked off. Jinwoo and Beru were trading hands like they had beef since kindergarten. Then Jinwoo landed a punch so nasty it launched Beru 10 blocks away. Beru was like, "What in the flying hell is this human?" He charged again, but Jinwoo countered midair and nailed him right in the snout. Blood came pouring out of Beru's nose like Sanji spotting a bikini model. But Beru wasn't playing anymore. One scratch, and boom! He injected a venom so strong it could knock out a rhino. "With that poison in your system, you're toast," he said, flexing his mandibles. Yet right before the lights went out, Jinwoo grabbed his wrist and dropped a punch so god-tier that it cracked Beru's armor and yeeted him into the wall. Four Eyes was in full shock mode. Jinwoo shouldn't have even been able to move. But at this point, Bayek's seen enough crazy stuff to not even blink. Jinwoo said, "So, that's your ace, huh?" And in seconds, the system purged every ounce of poison from his body. He looked over and said he had to finish this as soon as possible, or Cha wouldn't make it. He launched a brutal kick, but this time Beru dodged like a pro. Realizing that nothing was working, Beru activated his final form. His exoskeleton started evolving like he was going full Digimon, and now this bug was 5,000 times more unkillable before. Jinwoo summoned his Demon Monarch daggers, crackling with dark lightning like they were fresh out of a boss drop. But when he tried to slice the bug, Beru blocked it like he was parrying a tutorial enemy. The two went right back to throwing hands, trading blows in a flurry so fast it looked like a Dragon Ball fight on 2x speed. This was no sparring match. Blink once, and your head's on the floor. Beru summoned a bunch of ice spikes, probably looted from that Japanese rank S who became a memory, and suddenly they're fighting mid-air with rocks falling all around like someone threw the stage into blender mode. Beru realized Jinwoo's speed wasn't just matching his, it was surpassing it. The man wasn't just keeping up, he was downloading his moveset in real time. They clashed so fast it broke the laws of physics. You couldn't even follow them in slow motion. This was peak anime madness. Jinwoo broke through Beru's guard and unleashed a flurry of gut punches. Then he dual-wielded his daggers like a blender on steroids, slicing at the oversized cockroach like he owed him rent. But Beru wasn't out yet. He slammed Jinwoo into the dirt and went for the eye-piercing finisher. But right before things got ugly, Jinwoo's skill, Fatal Strike, evolved into mutilation, and my guy turned that bug into shredded lettuce. Sliced him up so fast even Beru couldn't keep up. Beru tried to regenerate behind a wall of ice, but Jinwoo had murder in his eyes. That was the first time that arrogant bug ever felt true fear. Jinwoo dropkicked him right in the gut and shattered his body like a glass piñata. Beru, now looking like he fell down an elevator shaft, called for backup like a sore loser. But too bad, he's not the only one with a squad. Jinwoo's shadow generals rolled up, ready to exterminate every last one of those crusty bugs. Even Kaizel pulled up like the final boss of a gacha banner. Orcs smashed through the swarm, and Tusk dropped a fireball that tore open the nest like a can of soda. Beru was straight up panicking, saying none of this made sense. Wasn't he supposed to be the GOAT? Why did this dude in black jeans and a hoodie feel like the final boss? Beru tried to dip with his wings, but Jinwoo grabbed him like a toy crane machine and dropped him to his knees in front of the real king. No speeches, no mercy. Another mutilation. GG. Jinwoo leveled up like 5 times instantly. All the ants started panicking and running like roaches when the lights come on. The hunters couldn't believe it. They'd actually won. But Jinwoo wasn't celebrating. He was sprinting toward Cha, who looked like she was one breath away from logging out permanently. They told him to wait for a chopper, but he said she wouldn't make it. So he pulled out his last resort, the life elixir that had saved his mom from a terminal illness. If anything could save her, it was this. But even that wasn't enough. She didn't respond. Jinwoo was crushed. He tried everything, and nothing worked. Then, just when it looked like all hope was lost, he remembered something big. Jinwoo told the cameraman to shut off the feed before he turned that lens into glitter. And out of nowhere, Tusk showed up dragging Byung's lifeless body like it was just another Tuesday. Baek was already losing his patience like, "Bro, what the hell are you doing?" But Jinwoo shut him up quick. No time for drama. He walked over to Byung and hit him with an arise like he was waking someone from the deepest nap ever. That's when the hunters finally realized the truth. Our boy can control the dead like a Pokemon trainer with DLC. Byung walked straight over to Cha and opened his grimoire to drop a full-blown resurrection spell that healed her instantly. Jinwoo could tell the guy was good at heart, because he didn't even give orders. Byung just knew what to do. Choi was already sweating like he just saw taxes due, thinking how impossible it would be to ever face Jinwoo. Baek said he's sure Jinwoo's only getting stronger from here, and with Byung's power in his hands, GG, game over. But Byung wasn't really about that smoke. He asked not to be dragged into another war zone. Jinwoo said, "Yo, this is the second time I've grabbed your shoulder. First was a command, this one's a request." Then he let him go in peace. Byung faded away with a smile. Bak got emotional and thanked Jinwoo for everything. Meanwhile, back in his evil lair, fancy chair, the Japanese leader was fuming, wondering why the Koreans weren't 6 feet under yet. His country's big brain plan to flex on Korea was falling apart, and he was losing it. He roasted his own team for being useless and told them to fall back. That frustrated pout? Chef's kiss. Cry harder, loser. Out at sea, the hunters were suddenly attacked by a million flying bugs. Why? Because all the ants were fleeing the hive like it was Black Friday at Walmart. The Rank S squad rushed to the chopper with Cha in tow. Even though the healer revived her, she still needed a hospital ASAP. They left Jinwoo behind because he said they'd just slow him down. And our boy was shook when he realized he was earning XP, even for squashing unhatched bug babies. Gotta farm that grind, right? He pulled out a giant sword from hell and started chopping those creeps up. They owed him money. He sent his army into overdrive and started stacking XP until, bam, level 100 unlocked. Now he's straight up unstoppable, fam. He could still sense that Black Ant's aura even after turning him into Monster Crumb. So when he tried extracting the shadow, he was teleported into some weird black void. When he returned, he saw a glowing cocoon, and out popped the nastiest beast this anime has ever cooked up. You don't even know how busted Jinwoo's about to be with this monster on his squad. He tried to extract the Queen's shadow next and got hit with a jump scare. The dude started speaking. No other shadow's ever done that before. The bug dropped to one knee and asked his king to give him a name. That's when Jinwoo saw the general rank pop up. He asked, "You seriously want to serve me even after death?" And the bug goes, "I didn't die. I resurrected thanks to my king." So, of course, Jinwoo hit him with the name we were all waiting for, Beru. After that, he extracted every single defeated ant like he was loading up his custom squad in a gacha game. Meanwhile, the ants at sea weren't slowing down, and some of the hunters looked like they were about to cry in 4K. Jinwoo asked how many were left, and Beru calmly replied, "About 4,000 still alive." So our boy asked if Beru could handle all those pests by himself. And the second he gave the green light, Beru dashed out with bloodlust in his eyes, ready to wipe the floor with his former coworker. Mr. Song was leading the ground squad, trying to squash the bugs, but Juhi screamed for him to watch out. 2 ants were coming in hot, ready to give him the kiss of death. Lucky for them, Beru showed up just in time and sliced those bugs into confetti before cleaning up the rest. He was moving so fast, they couldn't even see what saved them. Just blink and boom, Beru's gone. Meanwhile, Choi and Taegyu were chilling on the chopper roof, swatting ants like they were flies at a BBQ. But there were so many that even they were starting to fold. The shield dude lost his grip, and it looked like the bugs were about to turn that chopper into Swiss cheese. But of course, Jinwoo swooped in riding Kaisel like a boss and saved the squad once again. Where would humanity be without this guy, huh? After all that chaos, the Jeju Island raid was finally a W. Most of the Korean Rank S hunters made it back in one piece, and Cha got rushed to the hospital. It cost them dearly, but after 4 tries, they finally pulled it off. Except way out in the Chinese seas, a few ants managed to escape. The Navy had been running on caffeine and desperation for 2 days straight trying to hold them off. They were about to open fire, but the captain said to wait, because the hero wanted to handle it solo. Enter Liu Zhigang, aka Asia's strongest hunter, who blasted those ants into dust like it was target practice. But deep down, he was salty. He didn't get to throw hands with that giant black bug Jinwoo turned into roadkill. A few days later, they held a funeral for everyone who got turned into statistics during the battle. Even though Jinwoo literally saved the world, some folks were still roasting him for not showing up earlier, saying fewer people would have died. Baek told him to ignore the haters, because if it weren't for Jinwoo, none of them would have made it out alive to talk trash. And if Cha already had a crush on him before, now she's probably 2 seconds from proposing. Girls practically simping in HD. President Go and Inspector Wu pulled Jinwoo aside to thank him and said he could ask for whatever reward he wanted. The old man asked if he had any plans now that he's crazy powerful. Jinwoo said he wants to start his own guild. Back on Jeju, the Night Guild was sent to collect magic crystals, but surprise, there were still a few stray ants crawling around. Then, a creature the size of a pickup truck climbed out of a hole, and the hunters warned him to back off. But the dude started speaking in Eldritch Minecraft language, and this icy Smurfette popped up. She snapped her fingers, and boom! Hunters hit the ground like ragdoll. Turns out she's an ice elf, and she said the noise was annoying, so she put them to sleep like bedtime stories. Her buddy confirmed someone they knew had been here, and was shocked he was helping humans now. The elf said they were done with their business and opened a portal to bounce. The big dude wanted to throw hands, but the pointy-eared guy told him to chill. The hunt will start when the time's right. Man, these people really think we're part of Scooby-Doo's gang with all this mystery. Before leaving, the tanky guy said this place stinks, and that if she were here, she'd go nuts. And who was watching all of this from the shadows? Jinwoo's dad, just chilling like it's no big deal. Yeah, these people are definitely trouble. Back in the city, Jinwoo was stuck in traffic while chatting with Jinho, who was hyped that their guild paperwork got approved so fast. Time to go office hunting. Then Yihan popped up like, "You better invite me to your guild, I'm super useful." And Jinwoo, he just hung up mid-sentence. Cold. Right after that, he got a call from the association's president saying a rank B gate had opened right in front of that highway, and that explained why no one was moving an inch. He said they'd already sent some hunters, but none of them could reach the gate because of the traffic jam. So Jinwoo pulled up to close it himself, and the nerdy dude said the other hunters were going to take a while to arrive. But when Jinwoo said he'd close it all by himself, the guy looked at him like he was crazy. Bro definitely doesn't watch the news. And if that wasn't enough, the dude nearly passed out when the gate turned red. Now the exit was sealed, and he had no idea how big that forest was. All he could think was, man, I should have told Mom I'd be late. Let's be real, stuck in that traffic, he was gonna be late either way. A bunch of monsters popped up, and Jinwoo was like, if this is all you've got, I'll be done in 5. Then summoned his whole shadow squad to mop the floor with those clowns. And yeah, now that Baru's on the team, this is easy mode, guy. Meanwhile, Cha was watching the sunset, all deep in her feeling. She said she still had so much to learn. After all, she couldn't even fight and had to be rescued. She said she wanted to catch up to Jinwoo so she could stand beside him. Oh, sweet. But girl, you don't just wake up one day with main character stats, okay? Back in the dungeon, the Shadow Army charged in while Jinwoo thought to himself, hunters were born to hunt. No kidding. But you never know when the hunters might become the hunted. Even so, they keep fighting, risking their lives for a purpose, whether it's to protect their family or just to spit in fate's face. And that's why hunters never stop hunting. After wrecking every monster in the place, the entire Shadow Army kneeled to let their king pass. With a huge grin on his face, Jinwoo just said, let's move on to the next target. And my dude, we've finally reached the moment nobody wanted, the end. But don't freak out. We might still get a 3rd season of this masterpiece called Solo Leveling. And if we don't, I'm flying straight to Korea to make them work overtime. Now here's a little challenge. Try to describe this anime with just one word down in the comments. If this masterpiece didn't earn your like and your sub, then I don't even know what will. Thanks for sticking with me till the end. I'm out of here. Peace and see you next time.